with all the beautiful technologies, but many of the problems we are trying to solve, we created. If things stay as usual, if business stays as usual, then we have about 100 years of life on this planet. But if you think there is hope, then we have to start taking action right now.
Indeed, if heavy industry and the genetic manipulation of the Earth environment is allowed to progress at its current rate, then the only life that will be able to survive on Earth will need to be of a very robust nature. Such life would be transhuman by necessity.
Biology divides life into three kingdoms: bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. Bacteria and archaea are simple organisms with no subcellular compartments. Eukarya are complex with defined cell compartments and internal organelles, mini organs like mitochondria that make DNA and energy for the cell. Plants, animals, and humans are eukaryotic, as are fungi and slime molds. The archaea are the hardiest of the life forms. They're able to withstand grinding pressure, heat, acidity, and alkalinity. They can live in volcanoes, geysers, and the ice shelf. Now, the materials appearing within these filaments are as tough as archaea. They look like bacteria, and they self-replicate. And natural fibers would be classified as fungal in the domain of eukaryotes. But these fibers contain forms from the other two groups inside them. You're looking at a tubular fiber with self-replicating internal elements resembling bacteria and behaving like archaea. That does not happen in the natural world. They are designed to endure almost anything.
In the social and political climate of the 21st century, mankind is truly facing some very great challenges. Many of them made all the more difficult due to the fact that they are challenges that go mostly unnoticed by the vast majority of people. The vast majority of people in the world today only perceive the world the way it appears on the surface. However, the real truth is that the world that we live in today is actually very different to that which most people perceive it to be. Because just below the surface of everyday life, beneath the social and political distractions of the reality offered to the masses via their television, there exists another world. The world that most people perceive is simply a facade. It is an illusionary reality where nothing is what it seems. It is a world where our social system is designed to foster division. Our education system is designed to conceal knowledge. Our health system is designed to create sickness. Our financial system is designed to steal wealth. Our community is designed to create disunity. And our very civilization itself is wholly uncivilized. We live in a world where 2% of the population controls 98% of the global resources, while the other 98% of people are left to compete against each other in order to gather some small fraction of the other 2% that is left to them in order to support their lives and their families. In fact, the world of today is so disjointed and so out of balance that the most amazing part of it all is that there are actually people who cannot seem to see it. And this is because the systems of control that have been put in place to blind people to the true realities of our world have been very cleverly and very meticulously constructed. Though much of our society may appear to be free on the surface, if the truth be known, mankind is actually far from free. We are simply free range. for the world of modern times is actually a very controlled place. But the situation is not wholly lost, for the simple truth is that mankind has allowed their servants to take over the mansion, and these public servants have worked and are continuing to work to steal everything of value that they can from the people, while gradually enslaving the world to a set of rules of their own contrivance. Legislation that has been cleverly designed to remove actual law from the planet and impose in its stead the will of individuals. When one puts all the pieces of the puzzle together on the table, the chemtrails, the HAARP arrays that are appearing all over the planet, the promotion of wireless technology, the smart meters, the introduction of repressive legislation such as Codex Alimentarius, the mandatory use of Monsanto genetically modified food, the destruction of the water table, the introduction of brain-inhibiting toxins such as fluoride into people's diets, it becomes quite evident that the ruling factions on this planet are actively engaged in the genetic modification of all life on this planet in order to further the transhumanist agenda. It is being done quite deliberately and quite purposefully, and it is being done with neither the knowledge nor the consent of the vast majority of mankind. And all the evidence needed to support this conclusion is right before your eyes, if people would simply take the time to look. The truth is that everything we are facing is visible in plain sight, and so is its inevitable conclusion. It's just that people tend to focus on their own little symptom and never step back to view the entire structure of our world holistically, and thus our response to the problem is compartmentalized, essentially rendering it ineffective. And this is all done by design, because in addressing their respective symptoms, people are trained to believe they have to work within the parameters of the system, rather than addressing the actual root of the problem. Every single government that exists anywhere in the world today is currently operating in breach of the trust that has been granted to it by the people of their nation. And this is true regardless of which country we are talking about. It is true whether it is a government consisting of duly elected politicians claiming to act in the best interest of the people, whether they are acting out of greed or whether they are simply acting through their belief that the system is real. It is true whether it is a military dictatorship falsely declaring a self-granted right to dictate what is good for others. It is true whether it consists of a monarchy that has declared its divine right to rule and supposedly care for its subjects. Because the reality is that every single government or ruling body in the world today is abusing the power granted to it by the people of the nation it governs. Exhibit A, the Earth. The remedy is for mankind to re-establish themselves as who and what they are, because the only ones who have any chance of addressing this situation are the people themselves. The first thing to be done is for people to notice their surroundings and to realize that very simple alternatives to the wantonly destructive direction of our current system exist right now.
Carbon at the nanoscale is actually transparent and flexible. And when it's in this form, if I combine it with a polymer and affix it to your window, when it's in its colored state, it will reflect away all heat and light, and when it's in its bleached state, it will let all the light and heat through, and any combination in between. To change its state, by the way, takes 2 volts for a millisecond pulse. And once you've changed its state, it stays there until you change its state again. The nanomaterial, 2 nanomaterials, a detector and an imager, and it takes all the infrared available at night converts it into an electron with the space of 2 small films. This is taking infrared radiation, wavelength, converting it into an electron. What if we combined it with this? Suddenly, you've converted energy into an electron on a plastic surface that you can stick on your window. But because it's flexible, it can be on any surface whatsoever. The power plant of tomorrow is no power plant. I can generate energy cleanly, efficiently, and cheaply right where I am. It's my energy. And if I don't need it, I can convert it back up on the window to energy, light, and beam it, line of sight, to your place. And for that, I do not need an electric grid between us. The grid of tomorrow is no grid. And energy, clean, efficient energy, will one day be free.
This type of technology exists right now, and the global implementation of such energy systems could begin tomorrow, thereby freeing mankind of its financial shackles and simultaneously circumventing some of the most pollutive industries on Earth. And such technology could be implemented tomorrow if the people simply did so themselves. To begin the process of change from this current destructive society, there needs to be an immediate and global movement of people. The people need to occupy everything, but in order to do so, they first need to occupy themselves. As a society, we need an immediate and global cancellation of all debt, thereby freeing each person from the clutches of financial terrorism that now hold them. And this should be closely followed by a switch to alternative energy devices, such as the carbon energy device demonstrated by Justin Hall. And these steps need to be implemented by the people themselves. It cannot be done from within the legal parameters provided by the current system, as the current system simply will not allow it. It won't allow it because the current system is designed not to service mankind, but rather to protect and sustain itself at mankind's expense. Such a process of change will only ever succeed if it is implemented by the people themselves, regardless of what legislation has been put in place to prevent them from doing so, because legislation is not law. Legislation is simply rules written on pieces of paper by public servants. Rules designed to eradicate actual law from existence and to impose the will of a ruling cartel in its place, to then impose itself upon mankind's very genetic and biological structure to serve a transhumanist agenda designed to enslave the entire human race, while all the wealth of this earth is stolen from them. And the only thing that stands in the way of this program running to its inevitable conclusion are the people themselves. But the biggest killer, the wielder of the ultimate power against mankind, the most all-pervasive force that has kept the people of the world enslaved for so long, is fear. People often talk about the need to adopt an attitude of love, and in many ways they do so, but then through inner fear, they fail to apply it to reality around them. Each should ask themselves, if suffering exists in the world around me and I fail to address it, then am I really in a state of love and service to creation, or am I simply in a state of fear and denial of reality? Admittedly, it is often difficult for people to see through the haze, not only for people who are now beginning to see how the world works, but also for others who have been long active and yet unwittingly only focusing on a symptom rather than on the actual problem. And this is because when you look at all the little symptoms, it's chaos and far too difficult for most people to really make anything out, because nothing really makes sense. It's just a barrage of information and of disinformation. It doesn't begin to make any real sense until you begin to look at things holistically, and then it all falls neatly into place. Though often, even when the real problem is clearly seen, most people simply point the finger and fail to see the actual solution. It is time for each person on this planet to remember who and what you are, and to never lose focus of the fact that government was created by mankind in order to service mankind's needs, not the other way around. So you must always question authority. If someone in fancy dress interferes with your ability to be yourself to your fullest potential, if you have always respected others and there is no injured party from your actions, then you should always question what right anyone has to compel you to perform any action or to make any demands of you at all. As more and more rules are put into place, mankind is becoming increasingly more regimented. We now find police officers stationed on school grounds, as what was once a childhood prank and part of growing up is now often seen as a breach of law, a crime. Self-expression is frowned upon unless it is carried out under strict supervision. And at the rate our regulatory bodies are going, eventually society will no longer tolerate any individuality at all. Eventually it will be illegal to even think outside of the box. Essentially, illegal to be truly human. The truth of the matter is that the people of this world are, even now, living in a very low-security open-air prison. And the only ones who can implement the positive change required to escape it and to pave the way for a free humanity are the people themselves. The solution has been there all along, for the solution lies with the people. It is always laid with the people. And all that is really required for mankind to escape from the prison that enslaves us is for people to realise the truth of the invisible bars that surround their minds, and to realise that the bars are only there due to people's belief that the system is real. The only reason you have to pay land rates, pay taxes, succumb to the will of greedy corporations, and adhere to legislation created by corrupt government bodies and designed to remove your liberties. The only reason all the modern world finds itself in a position where it is virtually enslaved by public servants is because you live in a divided society, and to people's failure to build common unity within their community, to get to know their neighbours, to support each other, and to see each other as valid. People have been taught to judge others by their differences, to play the blame game, to point the finger at another, and to voice their anger for their hardships and feel that they have achieved something, when by doing so they are simply perpetuating the division and effectively missing the actual problem altogether. Our leaders have replaced true and natural law with a set of rules of their own contrivance, and these rules have served to rob mankind of our earth and of our heritage. And we the people, the 99%, are truly the only ones who have the power to effect positive change. An alternative way of doing things, a system that empowers and frees the populace, will never be implemented via the means of the system that currently enslaves them. There is no legal remedy, no remedy in politics, no remedy in government. There can and will only ever be remedy found in natural law and in a population willing to honour it. And so now, more than ever, it is time for mankind to act and to clearly understand who we are. The most important thing we can do in the present moment is to realise that we each have the ability to peacefully but firmly stand to stop the further destruction of our water table and to prevent the rest of the transhumanist infrastructure from being put into place. And most importantly, to connect with our community and to lead by example in all that we do. And together we can easily reclaim our heritage and our birthright. But it will not be done while there is judgment or accomplished through violent revolution. Nor are they needed, because all it would take is mutual respect and a united act of non-compliance to a fictional system that enslaves the minds of almost all who inhabit this world due to people's belief that the system is real.
Civil disobedience is not something outside the realm of democracy. Democracy requires civil disobedience. Without civil disobedience, democracy does not exist.
You see, the solution lies with each of us. It lies with me, and it lies with you. And it lies in a simple choice between love and fear. Indeed, the path to remedy, the path to positive change, the path to alter the direction the ship of state is now sailing is right at our feet. All that is required is to take the first step. In Lakesh.
It's quite comical, actually, when you realize the difference between reality and what some people are talking on TV about.
You took the mark of the devil just so you can eat and breathe. Bow down at the feet and surrendered liberty. Tyranny and terror, corrupted dictators, posing as your leaders while they poison every leader. Pumping fluoride in the water while they rape Iraqi daughters. Dumbing down the public, fashion magazines and fodder. Now they slaughter weaker nations. Faulty explanations, selling fear to the masses. Terror level elevations, revelations is unfolding right before your eyes. Wake up in a FEMA camp, drugged and hypnotized. Fourth Reich's taking over while you focus on your bling. But I bet by this point you haven't heard a damn thing. It's destruction by design, prophesizing every scripture. Take a big step back, see the whole picture. A distraction of the mind to keep you living in a bubble.
We're in a lot of trouble because less than 3% of you people read books. Because less than 15% of you read newspapers. And when the 12th largest company in the world controls the most awesome goddamn propaganda force in the whole godless world, who knows what shit will be paid for truth?
Problem, action, reaction, solution. It's time to wake up to the formulas they're using. State-sponsored terror to burn our constitution. Weapons of mass deception of the media delusions. Using double speak to keep you following like sheep. CNN and Fox News to keep the populace asleep. Never looking, never question why we're headed towards recession. The dollar's worth a nickel, but we're ruled by our possession. I mentioned that those towers fell in less than an hour. Ignorance is bliss, the source of the power. But the power in the shadows if we all wake up and see that the land that we're living in is nothing close to free. It's destruction by design, prophesizing every scripture. Take a big step back, see the whole picture. A distraction of the mind to keep you living in a bubble.
We're in a lot of trouble. So you listen to me. Television is not the truth. Television is a goddamn amusement park. You're beginning to think that the tube is reality and that your own lives are unreal. You do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube, you eat like the tube, you even think like the tube. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion.
Now you're living as a slave, high-tech police state. Warrantless searches and waterboarding and waste. Mandatory vaccines to keep you sedated. Big brother on the screen to keep the public isolated. Conspiracy theories, now conspiracy facts. Thought crimes condemned like terroristic attacks. Every time you take a breath, you pay another tax. Every time you take a step, it's documented and tracked. It's whack how we're living, the planet's a prison. You should've listened up and questioned 9/11. Declared a revolution, defend our constitution. A public execution of corrupted institutions. It's destruction by design, prophesizing every scripture. Take a big step back, see the whole picture. A distraction of the mind to keep you living in a bubble.
We're in a lot of trouble.
Mercury-containing vaccines may help, not harm kids, according to... If China were to revalue its currency, or China is to start making, say, toys that don't have lead in them, or food that isn't poisonous, their costs of production are going to go up, and that means prices at Walmart here in the United States are going to go up too.
People out there in our nation don't have that, and I believe that our education, like such as in South Africa.
First, a Fox News alert. Coalition forces have discovered 500 chemical munitions in Iraq.
Good evening. Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack.
And how is Ron Paul's number so high? Clearly, some online communities are messing with the outcome.
Live